Sir,
practical. One of your practical regarding this respiratory module is the topic is activity of histamine and antihistamine on bronchial smooth muscle. So theoretically, we all know that histamine is a substance that basically is a bronchoconstrictor. So we have to see practically how this histamine works as a bronchoconstrictor and how the different drugs act to relieve this symptom. This topic is basically divided into two practical parts. If you go through the practical session, you can see that there are two practicals basically that is used to explain this phenomenon. So first practical we usually used to do it in our labs. So obviously nowadays people are at home, so I will try to explain you the most theoretical part and try to give you some hints to understand. But practically we do this by using two practicals. First is this, that you study the effects of different dilution of histamine only on bronchial smooth muscle. This will give you an idea how histamine causes bronchoconstriction, and this we will do on a rapid model. Okay, I will explain you the procedure later on. But the first part is to use histamine only and to observe the bronchoconstriction phenomena in the bronchial smooth muscle. The second practical, which is basically connected with this, that you along with the histamine, we are using the histamine in the same practical to observe constriction effect. But along with this, we use some drugs that are known as antihistamines. So these antihistamine drugs, we use different drugs to relieve this phenomena, and this is how this part is combined. So two practicals, one with only histamine, the other is histamine and along with the antihistamine. That is the intro of this practical session. Okay, so we start with the practical one. In the practical one, we say that the objective of the study is to study the effect of different dilution of histamine. We use different dilution of histamines, like we use in milligram per ml. Okay, so 1 milligram and less than this. So this different dilution of histamine, and the part that we use as a model, the model we use here is the rabbit trachea. So we use the animal model, and that is the rabbit, and the rabbit trachea and the smooth muscle of this rabbit trachea are used to observe this study. So this is an animal model to observe this bronchoconstriction from. So this is the objective for the practical one. Okay, the theory is simple, that you know that the bronchial smooth muscle contains two types of receptor. One is known as beta 2 receptor, and you know that whenever these receptors are stimulated because of the bronchodilation, whereas the other part or the counter part of this is the bronchoconstriction, and this bronchoconstriction is mediated by histamine. So this is the second part that we are discussing here, that bronchoconstriction is stimulated by histamine, and this can be relieved by using an antihistamine. So the second part of this theory is more important, and this is more relevant with today's talk. Okay. Again, what we do in this procedure, that we use the trachea of the rabbit, and we basically use the spiral muscles of this of the trachea of the rabbit, and then we prepare a tissue. Although it's only written in here, but it is a difficult part to take out the tissue from the rabbit trachea, because the muscles are very fragile. We have a cartilage along with it. So we dissect it, and then we try to find out, only take out smooth muscle from this trachea. Anyhow, we obtain this tissue, the spiral muscle of the trachea, and then we start our practical. The requirements used for this practical, whenever you perform a practical, you know what are the first part is the objective, what objective you want, then the requirements. The requirements are power lab assembly. This is very important. Power lab assembly is an instrument that is used to observe this sort of effect. So power lab assembly with tissue bath, Krebs solution, which is a solution, it's an isotonic solution where tissue can live in it, and it maintains the life of the tissue. Then we have a piece of trachea that I told you that this tracheal spiral muscle is taken from the trachea of the rabbit. So power lab, grab solution, pieces of the trachea. Then obviously the stimulator is the histamine. We use this chemical as a histamine, chemically glass tube, distilled water, and some syringes. So this is the requirement to start with this practical. I just give you a link of this power lab. You can watch the video on that because at this moment I cannot show the video because it takes time, and also we are running short of time and this net problem. So I just added this link. You can see the power lab instrument. In this video you can easily observe what is a power lab, how it works, what are its different parts. So you can copy this link and see the video, as well as you can also just Google this word and you can see the different videos of the power lab, so that this will be easier for you to understand. Okay, so after power lab, you see the power lab is a machine which is used to observe the phenomena. The other part, we have the crab solution. Crab solution also is a solution that contains the glucose and the different ions that provides a proper ionic environment to the suspended tissue. So when you take out this trachea from the animal, then you dip this tissue into the petri dish, and then this petri dish contains this crab solution that makes this tissue viable, and that keeps the tissue in its form. Composition of crab solution, you should also know, you better to know it. It's a salt, and usually we prepare in an amount of 3 to 4 liters. If we prepare a solution of around 3 liters, we have a calculation that it contains sodium chloride to 20.7 grams, sodium bicarbonate 6.3 grams, the glucose 6 grams, potassium hydrogen phosphate, potassium chloride. So this is the composition of crab solution. Whenever you start the practical, these are the ingredients you should have, and then you prepare the solution. You add this all the solute in it, and then you add this the water, and then finally you can prepare the crab solution. Can be prepared in the lab, or it is also easily marketed. It is available as a complete solution form. So power lab, the machine required for the practical, crab solution required for the maintenance of the tissue. Okay, then the stimulator is histamine. I told you histamine is used in a different dilution. 1 milligram of histamine is dissolved in 1 ml distilled water, and this makes a solution of 10 to the power minus 3. Minus 3 means it's a milligram solution. 1 milligram per ml, 10 power minus 3 means 1 milligram. So you have first dilution is 1 milligram ml. Then obviously you serially dilute it. What is a serial dilution? That you take out 1 milligram dilution, the chemical, and then you add or you dilute it tenfold. The tenfold, it's simple that you take 1 ml of the parent solution, and then you add the 9 ml of the distilled water. So this makes the tenfold dilution. So we use 3 tenfold dilution, 1 milligram, 1 milligram per ml. Then we have 0.1 milligram per ml, and then we have 0.01 milligram. So you serially dilute this chemical. So histamine is prepared in 3 dilutions, so that you can see the dose graded response. As the dose increases, how the response is changed. Okay. The procedure is started that we wash all the glassware, and then we prepare the solution. Just describe how do you prepare the solution. Prepare generally 3 liters of crab solution. The chemistry or the formula I have already shown. What are the different ingredients used for that? Then the power lab system. Power lab is a machine. It is need to be operated. So it has a specific parts. It is started. So you can see in the video, you can watch this video, it can easily understand you, because right now we do not have the atmosphere to show you this part. So this can be helpful to you to see in sort of the link I have already provided you. So you start the lab system, and then what you do, you take out the tissue from the rabbit trachea, and then you dip it into the crab solution. Okay. before when you dip into the solution, you should know that the temperature of this media should be around the room temperature, like 37 degrees Celsius. Not the room temperature, but the body temperature. Okay, the tissue require the temperature of the human body temperature, that is 37 degrees centigrade. You need a proper oxygenation, and then you do the procedure. So you first prepare a petri dish with the crab solution, maintenance of the temperature, providing of the oxygenation. So everything you prepare first. You prepare or you start the power lab. So these are the things first you do. Then you sacrifice the rabbit, and then you take out the trachea from its throat, and basically your target is the spiral muscles of the trachea, which basically you will perform the practical. So we dissect out a 6 centimeter length of a trachea. So, okay, so not the whole trachea, around 6 centimeter piece of the trachea is taken out, and then it is dipped into the crab solution. Okay, after you dip this trachea into the crab solution, make 4 or 5 pieces of, again you further cut down this trachea of this 5 centimeter. Take the trachea of 1 centimeter length, because this tissue is enough to start the process into the power lab system. 1 centimeter tissue length is required to operate the procedure. Okay, then we tie this thread to the power lab system. In the power lab system, there's a thread over there. Then you tie it with this thread, and then you start the procedure. The tension of this the machine is also important. The initial tension of 0.5 gram for 90 minutes is started. Continuous extrusion. Crab solution is continuously changed. You cannot dip this tissue for the long time. After every 15 minutes, you have to change this media because of the good results. Otherwise, if you keep this tissue for the long time, the solution will not perform its action. So you need to keep changing this media for every 15 minutes. This is why we prepare 3 or 4 liters, because for the petri dish you need small amount, but since you have to change it continuously, so you prepare an enough amount. So you keep changing this media for 15 minutes. Okay, once you fix the tissue into the power lab, and then you start the process, first take a baseline reading. What is a baseline reading? Baseline reading when you do not have infused the histamine. Without histamine, just the reading of the tissue is known as the baseline reading. This baseline reading is first taken, and then you start your process with using the histamine. So this baseline reading is something you may call it as control. In sort of experiment, we call it as a control. The control do not contain any drug. So this is basically a control. When you take a graph of graphical presentation without the drug addition. So take a baseline reading, then you start the different doses. We start with the lowest dose. So this is 0.01 milligram per ml, you may say, or 10 to the power minus 5 gram per ml, whatever you say. So the low dose, we start with the low dose. We see the response, because histamine will start giving a contraction to the tissue. So baseline without contraction, then you add the histamine, and that will give you the contraction. Then obviously a 20 minutes interval is usually taken between the process. Then again we take the new baseline. So first baseline, then you start the drug, take the reading, then where the gap is around 20 minutes, and then you again the next concentration. And we start from lower to higher. First dose is the lowest one, then we start with the higher one, 10-fold dilution, and obviously we start here with 3. So 3 graphs you will find out with the baseline. This sort of thing is also tabulated. We have we make a table, and in the table on the left side we have different concentration of the histamine. Then in the next column we have the baseline readings. Whatever the baseline reading comes in the units, this come into the graph, and you will find out the units. So at different concentration you have a reading of baseline. Then you have a reading after drug administration. Okay. Then you have a second reading, which is after giving the drugs. Then we find out the difference, and this is how you plot a response curve. This is known as percent response. Okay, so baseline readings are reading after drug administration, the difference, and then you finally find out the response, how much percent response you find out. Okay, so maybe on baseline, if the response is only 5%, when you add the drug, the response reaches to 30% or 40%, then you can simply calculate the percent response. This is an example I've given you how the graph is plotted. This is you see on the left side, I will show you with this mouse. This is the percent maximum histamine response. This is started from the 0, then the reading goes to up to 100. And this is on a vertical side or on y-axis. And on this x-axis, you have a molar concentration of the histamine. Molar or whatever you gram per ml is also fine. So whatever you take, but it's in a log concentration. So you see, as the concentration of the drug increases, the histamine responses also increase. You do the practicals on PowerLab and you find out, you get a plot of this. Baseline is there, which is basically simply horizontal because there is no contraction without any drug. And then this contraction increases as we increases the dose. So this sort of graph you will find out when you perform the histamine practical. Okay, so in the first part, we just have only histamine and we see the dose graded response of the histamine. So this is simply we usually do in a first practical session. But then in a second part of the practical, which I have combined here because we have to see the phenomena coherently. So in the second the procedure is the same. Okay, same. You have a bronchial smooth muscle, histamine is there, but in the presence of the histamine, you use different antihistamine. So what would happen? I just summarize you first, then you can understand the procedure. The histamine is there. It is showing you a constriction or the graph. And now you are adding the antihistamine. So what antihistamine will do? It will reduce the contraction. So in the graph, you will find out the readings with histamine, they will be lower down or the contraction will be decreased. If we talk about the theory, it is almost same. We just discussed that you have a bronchodilation, a beta 2 receptor, you have a bronchoconstriction with the histamine. What is the difference in the two is the solution of the different dilution. So you have two sort of dilutions in this practical, histamine as well as antihistamine. Antihistamine drug, you can use any antihistamine drug. We have covered this in the theoretical part, different drugs, first generation antihistamine. This is, we're talking about H1 drug, H1 histamine. Okay, remember about it. You can also do the H2 receptor, but since we are talking about the respiratory module, so these are basically the H1 receptor blocker. You can use any drug which is the H1 receptor blocker, and you can prepare the different dilution. Again, you can have a drug of X, Y, Z. We just showed an X, Y, Z means different drugs. You can see the phenomena. Concentration we usually use in the same way: 1 milligram, 0.1 milligram, and then we have a 0.01 milligram. So this different drug with different concentration you can use. Procedure is almost same that I just described you, that you take crab solution in a dish, petri dish, you maintain the atmosphere, take out the lipid, sacrifice it, take out the trachea, and then you perform. Again, this is the repetition of the whole process that we did in the last one. Okay, this is the same almost. Okay, what is the difference in the procedure while we are adding the drugs? So how do you add the drugs? You have first you add the histamine, you take the baseline reading, take the contraction. Usually here we use only one dose of the histamine, not different doses, because this will have complicate the process. So in a process when we use the antihistamine, we use only one dose of the histamine. Okay, the dose which has shown a good response in the previous experiment, we select this dose, and in the presence of only one dose, we use the different doses of the antihistamine. So you start with the histamine, take the baseline reading, then you see the reading with the histamine, and then you start the different doses of the antihistamine. Okay, this is one of the example. Okay, this I've shown you example. You can see the histamine is on the horizontal side. These are the different concentration of the histamine. This is the contraction, and you can see here. Okay, we have example giving example of promethazine. Promethazine, when used with the histamine, you can see this is the circular part. This shows the histamine, and this is the triangular part that shows the promethazine. So you can see when we see the contraction with the histamine, the graph goes up. Means that without antihistamine, there is a contraction or there is a maximum contraction of the tissue. But as we use promethazine with this histamine, this contraction reduced, and you can see that the lower graph. So the lower line shows promethazine with histamine, whereas the upper line shows only with the histamine. So this is how you can differentiate, or you can monitor the difference. This is the graph you will get from when you start with the power level. So one is this example, and the other is I have given you different drugs like atropine. Okay, this is a chemical formula, or this is used for the practicals. This is not basically present. The phenomenon is very obvious that in the presence of the histamine, the concentration is going high, but when you use this antihistamine, then this graph goes down. We use the practicals in the laboratory, and then just to ensure you, or you give you an idea, the theoretical that you study in your that the human tissue, and once we do the experiment on human on animal model, they are basically also repeated on the human tissue as well. But for the laboratory purpose, we use the animal model. The rabbit is more closer to the human tissue, so we use this rabbit model for that. So that's the basic idea. But I was trying to show you some video. I tried to get these videos, but I couldn't find out how to load on it. Otherwise, I just give you the link. This link can help you out. So this is all about the practical, the role of histamine and antihistamine. Actually, we were running short of time, so I just try to quickly complete this process. So in this regard, if you have any question, you can ask me. Tarek, questions कैसे पूछेंगे देख लेना.
जी हेलो सर सर
I completed the part of the question जो वाला.
ठीक है
चैट पे आ जाएंगे ये क्वेश्चन जो आ रहे हैं.
सर चैट एक्सक्यूज मी सर चैट पे करना है या वो माइक वगैरह पे.
चैट से ही ठीक है, चैट पे कर लेंगे.
ठीक है सर.
Okay, so one of the question is, अच्छा मैं मतलब उस पे जवाब दे सकता हूँ ना. हेलो
जी 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 सर.
क्वेश्चन इस पे आएगा, बट आई कैन आंसर.
जी 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 सर आप दे सकते हैं. ठीक है सर.
Okay, so one of the question is here is what is the role of Krebs solution. I just described that Krebs solution is a solution that is required to maintain the homogeneity of the tissue, or it provides the environment of the of human tissue or any animal tissue to survive, because you cannot put a tissue then the other, whenever you take out from the body, it gets dying. So you need to provide it the live atmosphere. Okay? So Krebs solution is an isotonic solution that is used to maintain in the life of this tissue. Okay, so this is the one question. Can you show the link? Yes, I just described the link into the slides. I can show you again. Otherwise, you just go there on YouTube and just write it down, Power Lab. This is the first video that you will find it out. It's very easy. You go through here, you can see it's very clear. Otherwise, I will show you the link after this different questions. I can show you. It's present into the slide. Okay. Okay, so the question is that why do we perform practical? Okay, when we know the theory, you see, the theory always comes, or it's basically established once you have done the practical. You know, you people belong to the field of science, so nothing is accepted here until unless you have a practical proof of this. So whatever you are saying that histamine is a bronchoconstrictor, you have to be perform it practically, or you have to see the phenomena. So this is why the thing that we do in the theories, and we say, okay, it's a bronchoconstrictor, it's a bronchodilator, but we perform these practicals so that you have a better understanding, or you have a confidence, okay, whatever this you've been taught, they are actually happening into the practical. So practical is the purpose. Although this is important, that this is not very important from the examination point of view, because we do not have this practical in the exam. I do consider this, but obviously this will be helpful to you anywhere, because practical is a very important part of the science. Whenever you go, you will perform these procedures. So this is why this is helpful. Okay. I have 4 or 5 questions till now. Okay, we can also perform, rapid is not the only model for this histamine. You can also perform the other animal. For usually the animals we use in the laboratory is basically the mice or the rat. They are the rodents, again, and the rabbits. So they are usually normally the models that we can use as a in the animal studies. Okay, the request is that can you show the link again? Slide कैसे आ सकती है?
स्लाइड वापस आई,
तो लिंक बताना।
स्लाइड वापस आई।
ये बच्चे देख रहे हैं। Okay, so one of the requests that please provide the link. So I'll just show you this the link again. This link you can see, and you can go down and you can see the Power Lab system. This video contains the different accessories of this Power Lab system. This will be helpful. Otherwise, if people will be here, we can show you into the laboratory, because we have this Power Lab system available. But obviously, right now you can see on any video like this. Okay. You can see this link. Okay, so up to now I have 4 or 5 questions, and I have already given the answer. Okay. Shall we close the session?
ठीक है सर.
Okay, 5 questions I have already given the answer. This question are come. ठीक है?
ठीक है सर.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, अल्लाह हाफिज़ सर.
जी सर. हो गया. अल्लाह हाफिज़.